Welcome, and it's Chuck. Welcome, and it's Chuck. Appreciate you so much for joining me for some good news after the fallout that's been happening with the Brian Hartline decision coming down on signing day. Not having much time to prep these guys, and you know that's a bomb dropping on your head anytime your position coach is leaving in the middle of a recruitment. Usually, there's time to meet the new guy, etc. These guys have no idea who's going to be their receiver coach, but Jerquaden Guillford has decided that he will remain a Buckeye, and that is a big boom considering what we're looking at here with this wide receiver class, the potential of losing already Caden Dixon-Wyatt, potentially Chris Henry Jr. You've got Jaden Ricketts coming in the class, and that's great, but he's a developmental guy. Brock Boyd, I think is, look, that's my personal opinion. He's a dog. He's ready to go relatively quickly. Year two, a guy who could potentially see the field and play extensive snaps. But, that's just my opinion. The guys who, do the rankings, they don't see it that way. But Jerquaden Guillford is a guy, they do see it that way. A dude who is 6'2", 190 pounds, the number one player in Indiana. And he has decided today that he will stick with his original Buckeye commitment, despite the late push from Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin almost got him to go to Ole Miss. He had an original date where he was going to announce his commitment, and he was going to commit to Ole Miss on that day. Hartline convinced him to push that off, wait a little while longer, which he did. And when he came back around, he decided it was Ohio State. Committed to Ohio State. Then Lane throws a wrench in the plans when he goes down to LSU. LSU, brand new coach. They want him to make a big statement early, and he picks out a couple of recruits like, look, let me go lock a few down to get the fan base buzzing. And obviously no better way to buzz the fan base than to go get a guy he, number one, really likes in Guillford, number two, has a relationship with, number three, almost got, and number four, a Brian Hartline wide receiver. LSU wants to be wide receiver U. They think there's a big rivalry between Ohio State and them. So that one would have made their fan base very happy. Lane's a sharp guy. He knows that. And he came after Guillford hard. And Guillford obviously had some things to think about. It's it's a pretty tempting offer. You can understand why that would be a tempting offer. If he was considering Ole Miss and going to commit to Ole Miss, LSU sounds a whole heck of a lot better. Probably came with a little more money as well. But in the end, Ryan Day and the crew are able to lock in Guillford. He will be a Buckeye. The paperwork is coming through, and this is a dude who has not played against great competition in high school. But when you watch him, man, I mean, he is so smooth, long legs, great deep ball skills. And the dude's just scored so many touchdowns this year. He's a production machine in an offense that really doesn't throw a ton. I really like him, really like Guillford. And this is really big for the Buckeyes because if you lost him and you lost Henry and Caden Dixon-Wyatt, you're looking at obviously I really like Brock. Jaden Ricketts is a down the road guy. You're looking at definitively you need a couple of receivers in the portal. As it stands, even with the three of them, you're probably still going to need at least one prolific wide receiver in the transfer portal, depending on what Chris Henry decides. And to that decision, I'm recording this right now at 2:37 on Thursday, and all the brass that works for Rivals has just recently predicted Chris Henry Jr. will be flipping to Oregon. That's Wilt Fung and Adam Gorney and that whole bunch. Generally, when you see one of them or all of them kind of jump on that, it means they've heard something, right? They got some intel that has led them to all believe, okay, this is definitive. Let's go ahead and put our flip ball in for that. Signing day goes through the early signing period, the end of tomorrow, the end of Friday. Will we see a decision from Chris from now to then? I mean, when you look at the options here, we're talking about a kid who's been committed to Ohio State forever. His sister plays basketball at Ohio State. He's obviously familiar with Ohio, having lived in the Cincinnati area for a long time. But he really likes Oregon as well. You lose Brian Hartline at Ohio State, his wide receiver coach, and you also lose the offensive coordinator at Oregon. He knows what offense he's playing in at Ohio State. He has no clue what they're going to be doing at Oregon. Dan Lanning's a defensive guy. they're getting a whole new offense in there. So from a standpoint, like, what's the bigger impact on you as a player? Losing the wide receiver coach? Keep in mind, they got a brand new wide receiver coach. Ross Douglas just came there last year, his first year. It might have been this year, his first year. He was recruiting last year. It was his first year on the recruiting cycle. This might be his first year. Either way, he's young, he's new, he's cool, he's a good dude. He's from Ohio, though he went to Michigan. He actually wouldn't be a bad guy to potentially replace Hartline, in my opinion. But the point is, they don't even know what offense they're running there. And here I am in a Jerquaden Guillford video. I guess it's not really a Jerquaden Guillford video. The news is Jerquaden Guillford is signing, and that's great. This is kind of an overview of the receiver position, and I guess the up-to-date thoughts on what's going on with this wide receiver crew here in this class of 2026. And a lot of people really, really salty about the lack of offensive playmakers and the way this is kind of fallen apart. Should you lose Chris Henry Jr.? Well, Guillford should make everybody feel a whole lot better, because when you look at Brock Boyd and you look at Guillford, these are bona fide playmakers. Are they nationally renowned as the level of playmakers that Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon-Wyatt are? No, they're not. And Chris Henry Jr. obviously in a league of his own when it comes to all of these guys because of his size and he's a unicorn, man. He's 6'6", and the way he moves is particularly his coordination, yards after catch. He's really growing into his body, and he was always pretty impressive how he moved for a guy that size, but it's gotten even better. And when you look at the film, the yards after catch this year, like, he really, if you didn't see him playing next to all these other guys, you wouldn't think he was so tall. Like, if you just saw him running on his own, look like a long guy, but you wouldn't look like 6'6". When you see it, how he moves, he's very coordinated for a guy that size, and he could very well take college football by storm, particularly in an offense that's going to throw the ball a ton. Now, we're looking at the Ohio State offense right now, and yeah, sure, JJ and Carnell get some run, but, Henry could play in an offense where they could really imagine JJ in an offense that really wanted to, like, utilize JJ. Like, we want to set all-time college football records with JJ. You could do it. You could certainly do it. Is it the best way to win a national championship when you have a well-rounded team? No. But if Oregon wants to make him and Decorian Moore the focal point of an offense, they certainly could. I don't think they do. I mean, they've got a great running game. They got good running backs. Their goal is kind of to be built like Ohio State and Georgia, and they're getting there. They're real close right now. So Chris Henry Jr. going to enter into there, and if he goes there, just be, the 1A to Decorian Moore, which is one hell of a receiving core. And, next year, that's big time potential. So decisions for Chris, we'll see what happens. I don't know, man. It would be a real bummer after all this time to stress about it. Look, I never thought he was going to flip out of this class. I really didn't. I mean, there was a time when I thought it would be really hard to hold on to him, and everybody always said, as long as Hartline and Ryan Day are at Ohio State, he's going to wind up at Ohio State. Well, Hartline's gone. So should anybody be really surprised if he does end up flipping? I guess not. But at the same time, when you factor in Oregon losing Will Stein, you got a whole new offense. Like, what is more questions? Where's more questions? When you look at the pedigree of the programs, it's clear that Brian Hartline, a great wide receiver coach who put a ton of guys in the NFL, but so has Ohio State as a program. Oregon, I don't know, who's the last Oregon wide receiver in the NFL that you can think of who has made a big impact? I can't think of any off the top of my head. They're trying to start a legacy, and that's cool, and you could be part of that, and some people are attracted to that, but it's clear Chris likes what Ohio State offers, or he never would have committed in the first place and stayed committed this long and shut down his recruitment not long ago. So that's where we're at. Still waiting on Chris's decision. Caden Dixon-Wyatt gone. Jerquaden Guillford is in, joining Brock Boyd and Jaden Ricketts. And Jerquaden Guillford, Brock Boyd. Look, this crew of five was ridiculous. If you're just looking at it standalone with these three, Jaden Ricketts is a 10.5, 100-meter guy. He's going to need trained and worked and developed to be a wide receiver, because he's not really played the wide receiver position like it's played in college, in high school, but he's got the physical gifts. He's a guy who earned his offer in camp. That always means a lot to me when they go to camp and Hartline's just blown away and he offers him. And that's the path he went. And Guillford is a dog. He's a total dog. Brock Boyd is a total dog. So standing alone, just those three, there have been a lot of eras in Ohio State football where people would be very, very happy with that. So remember, it's about the guys you get, not about the guys you lose. Can you make it work with the guys you got? I think that, these are three really solid wide receiver prospects, and obviously losing the two top dogs in the class gonna suck, but we always knew this was coming, right? We always knew the day would come when Hartline left, and it would be painful at first, but look at the stability to Ohio State. Look at Penn State with the 125th recruiting class right now. Look at Michigan. Michigan just lost their number 2 rated wide receiver today. He flipped to Stanford, and he was a 4-star wide receiver, 6'4" kid. He's out of their class. We see Georgia loses their quarterback, 5-star Jared Curtis, the number 1 quarterback in the country, to Vanderbilt. By the way, Braylon Womack, I don't think we've talked about this on the show yet. Braylon Womack ended up, obviously he was committed to Auburn instead of Ohio State, right? And then he was flirting with LSU. Auburn fires the coach. LSU fires the coach. Womack commits to Mississippi State. So the kid from Mississippi ends up staying home at Mississippi State, not even Ole Miss, Mississippi State. And, there are questions when that happens to me, right? There are questions of, does a kid really want to play big time college football when you sign at a place like Mississippi State? Like, it's one thing, you have those questions about the Texas Techs of the world. Like, okay, just taking a bag. Do you really want to play big time football? But then it's like, oh, wait, like Texas Tech is now playing big time football. They're number 4 in the nation. They're trying to do something. What's Mississippi State trying to do? I don't know. But at the same time, you don't want to be mad at him. It's like, this is a kid staying home, right? He's staying home. That's cool. That's cool. So cool story. Obviously was never meant to be a Buckeye. So that's cool, but just wild stuff today. I'm going to do another video with yet another update on the Legend Bay situation, because I put one out earlier today and we've got some more news on that. So I need to edit that and add to that video. I'm going to pump that out soon. And then of course we've got to get into this game, man. So we got a big time game, and I am so stoked that we got a big time night game. We haven't had a big time night game since last year, and I love it. I'm going to have a whole spread. It's going to be great. We're not going to live stream. Maybe we will live stream it. I don't know. I might watch it with the family though, too. Sometimes you guys are awesome. Sometimes I like to watch it with the family. We'll see what my kids are doing. My middle son and his girlfriend just broke up, so maybe he'll want to talk to me. Our little Carm broke up with his girlfriend. Mutual thing. Kind of mutual thing. So maybe we'll spend that night with him. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Be back soon. JUCK'S out.